What is up, everybody? Jester here, and today is finally the day. An honest review of the Aquarius update. It's only been about a week since launch, but we're going to go through everything that was added to the game, for better or for worse. I'm going to give you my opinions. I'm also going to be dipping my toe into something I don't usually do, and that's speculation. I want to talk about why I think this update happened, and what I think we're going to see going forward with potentially the Worlds 2 update here pretty soon. There is a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. If you play No Man's Sky, and unless you've been living under a rock, you know the Aquarius update dropped last week, September 4th, 2024. And what we're going to do is go through this line by line for everything that came into the game. And we're going to start with the big one, fishing. To get started with fishing, you have to get to the anomaly. So as a new player or a new run player, you have to be able to get that far in the storyline. But once you do get there, you can actually pick this up from EOS, the multi-tool vendor, for absolutely free. It just takes 3 carbon nanotubes, a dihydrogen jelly, and 60 chromatic metal to be able to put this in. Really basic stuff, and then you can get going fishing. To get started fishing, just select your fishing rod from your multi-tool menu, walk up to any body of water, and just throw your line out there. And for me, this is kind of where the problem starts. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with what they've done here. I just don't think it's all that immersive. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But basically, the line goes from blue state to yellow state with a nibble to a full green state where the fish is on the hook, and you have to then hook the fish using, for me, it's the right trigger, and you have to make sure you hold it down and you can land any fish you want. And that's really the problem. Back in 2004, a little game called Fable released for Xbox, and it's still to this day one of my favorite games I've ever played. And what it has in common with No Man's Sky is neither one of them is a fishing game, but now they both have fishing mechanics, quote unquote. Now, this is what I think of when I think of a fishing mechanic. And a lot of people in my comments have been mentioning Red Dead Redemption 2. You're absolutely right. But at least in Fable, they gave you this bar that if it gets to the right, you lose the fish. If it gets to the left, you land the fish. So there's a struggle mechanic when it comes down to it. This was 20 years ago that they were putting this kind of stuff in games. And I feel like Hello Games just wanted to get something out there pretty quick, and we're going to discuss why I feel that way. But I feel like as far as a fishing implementation, this is pretty much bare minimum of anything they could have done. Now look, I've seen a lot of people come in the comments saying that they really enjoy the chill vibe that this brings for fishing. And I don't want to discredit that whatsoever, because how everybody plays is how they play, and what you think about a game is what you think about it. Don't ever let anybody tell you different. I have my opinions, and I just like to share those. So if you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. I just think it would have been better had they done a little bit more with it. And I feel like you'd be more immersed, more encompassed into the actual action of fishing, instead of just having this press a button, hold a button thing. I don't know, it feels lazy to me. As far as the loot goes for fishing, well, it's mostly fish and aquatic creatures, but there are some other things you catch. We'll get back to the fish here in just a second. I want to make a quick clarification on the big fishing video I did with the bionic lure. I wasn't looking for this. I wasn't looking for the boot. I thought maybe in the beginning it might give you a better chance of getting it, but I wasn't really looking for that. What I was looking for was the messages in a bottle, and I was looking for these technologies, because you would think they would be on the rare side. But what does it say if they make these super common items? What do they even think about these things? And I do want to point out the sentence that made me think this. Skipping down to the first blurb about the actual fishing, we'll get back to the Exo-Skiff. Believe me, we will. It clearly says here, explore to find rare catches. Travelers who wish to complete their fishing log will have to explore a huge range of different environments and water conditions, as well as crafting specialist bait to attract rare catches and elusive legendary fish. It doesn't say rare fish. It says rare catches. And everything you get is a catch. So if they don't think that these things should be rare, why should we care about them? That's kind of what I'm getting at with the message in a bottle and with the technologies. As it turns out, these things aren't worth being rare at all. Now, I've seen comments of people saying they've got some of these water damage technologies that are almost as good as S-Class. I've tested about 15 of them. Every last one of them has been something like this. It is just ugly. It's not great at all. If you didn't have nothing else and you were just starting the game, this would be awesome. So don't get me wrong, it's got its place. But I ain't seen anything remotely close to S-Class level stats when it comes to these. As far as the messages in a bottle go, They appear to just be procedurally generated messages. Now, let me tell you about a couple of scenarios where messages in a bottle would have mattered. Imagine each developer writing a couple of little blurbs, no names or nothing, a couple of little blurbs, and put it in one of these messages in a bottle for your player base to go find. This gives you interaction directly with the development team. It gives the development team interaction with the players who are looking for the notes. This could have been done so cool. But also imagine a messages in a bottle that some starship had crashed on an island not too far away, and you get to go find the starship. I think this is just a symptom of the bigger problem at this point, which is creativity, and I'm going to get to that at the very end of the video. Finally getting to the fish portion of the video, I do want to touch on this because I think there's a bit of a misconception about weight when it comes to these actual fish and sea creatures. Weight only matters here in the catalog. It doesn't matter anywhere else. So I think this is sad because it's going to nullify a lot of the people that I've seen in comments saying that they've got these great recipes that they've been using as bait, and it gets like 26% weight, because it really doesn't matter unless you're a trophy hunter. So I'll prove that, and it's pretty simple. If you come in here into your inventory, these fish stack. They're only sorting it by class and by the variety. That's it. These don't operate like fauna where you can go in and scan them and you might get a different number of nanites or something. No. They're going to sell for, let's say this one, for example, is 2,000 units each. So obviously these probably weren't the same size fish, and yet we get the exact same thing out of them. Same goes for the nanites. And speaking about those things, for a new player, the units, it might be something you could do, but even in the many, many hours I spent fishing, I only made about 15 million units. So it's not a unit sustainable thing. You would probably want to release these fish for the free nanites. And I think that would be way more useful to the newer players. And I do think the fact that you can add these and as a source of nanites is great. So don't get me wrong here. People thought that I said that this is better than runaway mold. No, in a 20-minute test, this was better than runaway mold. That's it. I know that over the course of an hour, 2 hours, runaway mold is going to destroy this. And the reason is that there's just too much work on it. It's just too much work, and you can do too many stacks of runaway mold at once in multiple bases, whereas you got to be in one place fishing. So yes, I am aware, but for a new player, this is a viable method of nanites, and I think for that, it's a pretty okay addition to the game. Moving on, let's talk about the Exo-Skiff. This is probably the most useless thing I've ever seen put in No Man's Sky. There's multiple reasons why. I can't even fathom why this was the choice that was made. First off, the game basically already gives you a boat. All you have to do is put the aquatic landing thrusters in your ship, and voila, you've got a fishing platform. Now, the better part about this is that it doesn't move. It doesn't move like the Exocraft do. And to kind of illustrate this, let's go ahead and put this down. Like so. And look, that thing's moving. Bobbing up and down. It's going to throw you over. Thing just went vertical on us. We're getting hit with waves, but guess what this thing ain't doing? Moving. So there's no point in having this thing regardless. Now, let's try another little experiment real quick. Because people have been hitting me in the comments telling me that I got to do it. And guess what? The thing does move. I'm moving. Barely. I mean, at least I can customize the color for this thing while it just sits here. And the one maybe small saving grace is it's got independent storage. It's 10 slots. It's not even that much. And some people in the comments have said that they didn't really use it much anyway because it's just another thing you have to move stuff between. So, I mean, imagine a world where we got a speedboat. Why am I off of it again? Just do better. God, do a little better. This is bad. Moving on to the next section, it's automated fish traps. And on this front, I've actually got some good news. When it comes to these automated traps, it appears they actually did these right. These behave more like a save beacon, so other people can use those in your base and not like a refiner, because I have it on good authority from Barniso himself, who is currently building the Cosmic Crossing. I can't wait to see what he does there. That you can grab fish out of somebody else's fish traps. And that's just great. because I still think it's really silly that people can't come to my refining hub and refine the rust into ferrite dust because they can't use my refiners. So at least it appears that they got this bit right. The bit they got wrong is they have only 3 of these per planet as a limit. And I don't get that. It's not 3 per base. It's 3 per planet. And I feel like that just devalues them. It's not even that good a source of nanites. But hey, if I wanted to come build some resort, and let people come and grab all the fish they wanted, I could definitely do that. Join the kingdom system today. Skipping over the Aquarius expedition stuff, because I'm actually going to close the video on my thoughts on that. I do want to talk a little bit about the rest of these categories. The cooking recipes, I've already said, I think are a little devalued because the weight of the fish kind of doesn't matter. But I guess a lot of people are having fun going out and cooking. It's just a nutrient processor isn't something I use very much anymore. And it was fun in the beginning, but it's just not a good source of nanites. And if the weight doesn't matter on the bait, why would I want to spend the time? So I feel like that's kind of an L. The fishing records are absolutely fine. It's something new that you can document. I have zero issue with that. The cosmetics for the expedition don't look all that bad. It's not something I'm going to wear, but it actually is a pretty cool looking suit. I don't know why you'd be wearing a deep sea suit in space, but if you want to go swimming in it, that's great. The good thing I liked was the posters that they added. I've actually used these in that fishing spot, and they look great. They really do look good. A missed opportunity here is going to be the Lost Anglers rig, because it's also just a cosmetic. It doesn't appear to give you any extra stats or anything like that. Same goes for the figurine, purely cosmetic. At least as far as I can find, it doesn't have any of the buffs as something like the Atlas one would have at 50 extra light years. They're going to reiterate the flight pack, and that's pretty much it. And now I want to give the big opinion, because that's going to be about what I actually think about the expedition. To cover the expedition, I'm not going to go into great detail in any of the phases or any of the milestones, because there's really nothing of big substance here. I mean, look at the last 3 on phase 1. Catch a fish, miss a fish, cook it in a stew, right? I don't know what you want to say. You go to a place, you do a thing. You go to the next place, you do a very similar thing. You have to do another similar thing. Maybe they were going for a chill vibe because of the bug hunt. Maybe it was too manic for them. But I thought they were really onto something by trying to really invigorate combat. And this is the exact opposite of that. It's super laid back. And I don't think, in my honest opinion, I'm not sure this was ever meant to be an expedition. And I really wish that it wouldn't have been. You see, I think fishing should have been a secondary mission, something along the lines of Dreams of the Deep or Starbirth, where you actually get told a story. You stumble upon some kind of clue about a guy that was chasing this monster Leviathan, and it gives portal coordinates. And now you have to go get big portal access and chase this down until you finally get to encounter the giant, massive Leviathan. See, the thing this game's always been bad about is not doing dungeon-like stuff. And I think people would be really, really into it because, I mean, for a while, Derelict Freighters did amazing because it was about as close to a dungeon run as we have in the game. So I really think if they'd have just done this as a secondary mission, it wouldn't be time-gated content now. So now it's only available to play now and then possibly on a replay, and then potentially, if they ever wanted to release it for anybody to play anytime. It's time-gated. So, you can't go back and play Expedition 1 right now. You can't do it because they don't make it available. So I think this would have been better done as a secondary mission. For once, I'm going to use a SteamDB chart for something other than showing you guys how low a player count is. I'm going to focus today on this big spike, and I think Hello Games is doing the same thing. This is the big spike that was around Worlds Part 1, which I think everybody would agree the massive part about that was the water. We can argue how good it was. It is what it is. It looks fine. I'm not arguing that it looks good, but I think they wanted to capitalize on the water. So it's no mistake that we got something dealing with the water in this update. But to me, this says one of 3 things. Either this ended up being rushed out because they were trying to capitalize on that giant spike and keep this game relevant so they're going to get a good release for Light No Fire when they put that out. I mean, momentum would be great. Or maybe it was part of Worlds Part 2, to where they said, well, we can pull that out and make it a little bit bigger, and we can put that in here and then work on Worlds 2 a little bit longer. Or this was always just supposed to be in this spot. It was supposed to be the breath between the giant updates. So I don't know. I guess time's going to tell on that. I think that pretty much covers everything when it comes to the update, except for what I think the bigger problem is, and what I think this update suffers from. I have no problem with this update. I think it's absolutely fine. It adds something new to the game. I'm really happy they put in a way to make nanites with it. That's going to be a really good method, I think, for a new player or somebody doing a new run. And it almost makes me want to, almost, no. I don't think it would be good enough to tempt me into doing that. But maybe to see how quickly you can get your exosuit done up or something along that line could be kind of fun. I don't know. It's just an okay for me. I'd say it's like a B-. There's just not a whole lot to it. I wish there was more. And maybe that was always supposed to be the way. I don't know. Maybe they were just trying to calm things down, or maybe this was rushed out. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but we're never going to know the answers to these questions. So I think the best thing to do is just kind of take what we got and hope they do something with it. I don't think they're going to do it because there's a pretty good history at this point of them putting things in the game and leaving them. I mean, the flamethrower is just terrible when it comes to stats. Settlements are still really needing some help. Squadrons, we could talk about that all day. But again, I'd say maybe a B-. It's okay. I have no problem with it, except for certain elements. And yeah, I'm talking to you, Exo-Skiff. Hopefully you guys like this kind of content. If you do, hit the like button and subscribe because it really does help. And I appreciate everybody that's done that here recently. But until next time, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.